you're at a Comic-Con and you are going to a panel and you thought it was going to be Carrie Ellis. But no, it's the Spooky Time Club.
Ah! We also starred in a Saw movie.
Yes.
Yeah,
we chopped off our foot.
Yeah, because that's where the key was hidden.
In our foot, yeah.
Yeah, in our foot. It was terrible.
I swallowed it and it went to my foot.
That's how I got gout. Anyway, welcome to the Geek Show Spooky Time Club. I'm Lee, and that right over there is Rebecca Frost, the true talent here.
Oh, thanks. I'm impressed with your pointing skills, though.
They're getting better, aren't they?
Yeah, they're getting way better.
Yeah, I know. Eventually I'll be able to graduate to pointing for a real job or something. So it'll be amazing. I'll put that on my resume. I can point the right way on a stream. Spooky Time Club, we talk about spooky things, and we had an assignment. We decided because of FanX, which happened just this previous weekend at the Salt Palace, we were going to watch some spooky movies based off of comical books.
Yeah.
Boy, we made decisions, didn't we?
We made decisions. I enjoy one of the movies that we watched.
I did not enjoy either.
Great. So we both just had like a fun...
Yeah. One of them actually made me mad, and the other one just made me indifferent. So,
okay.
But that's good. I actually wish that stupid Guillermo del Toro, God of all cinema, that his comic book movies had actually been more horror based and less whimsical, because either Hellboy, Monsters, comic book, Blade 2, great stuff, but it's so Guillermo del Toro that it's not really scary. Even the scary elements are not really scary. It's just more like, here's a scary monster in your fun movie.
Yeah, it's just more like, instead of, you know?
Exactly. But instead, we decided to ruin our own lives with 30 Days of Night and Constantine.
Yeah, listen, I like Constantine. I think Constantine is a fine movie.
Do you? That's great.
I do. I really like. I was watching it with my husband, and we were talking about it while we were watching, because I've seen Constantine before, and I really like that. Right off the bat, when he shows up, chain smoking cigarettes, like, it is apparent he has been doing this for a long time, and that opening scene where he exercises that first demon was actually like pretty scary.
I love that open, actually.
It's really, and I do love that it's just like a typical Tuesday for him. Like, this is just a regular day in the life of Constantine. Also, so they trap him in the mirror, getting right into it. And the mirror gets stuck. The mirror gets stuck on the way out of the window. Why not tilt it?
No, you got to just push it through the wall.
Okay, cool. That's my only complaint about the movie.
Really? So,
no.
So the movie was made, 2005, 6, 7, somewhere in there?
Oh, geez, let me look it up really quick.
Yeah, early 2000s. So it does suffer from, these were the best special effects we could do with computers.
Yeah, but that's okay.
It's okay. You can look at it and go, oh, hey, cool.
2005, yeah.
2005. So it does also suffer from something that I like to call, not religious, demons aren't scary. But on the other hand, I've seen movies with demons in them that scared the living pants off of me. Like, some of the Italian demonic movies are going to keep you up at night. But they're actually terrifying movies. Whereas Constantine, I don't know. Constantine kind of felt like, if I'm being really honest, it felt like a really good movie that got too many notes from the studio.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can see it.
It's all the way down to, hey, you know what we need? We need, like, the character of Chaz. I could be wrong. Someone's going to correct us. Chaz is a woman in the comics. And I think go for it. Let's do that. But it's almost like somebody turned in a note at some point that said, you know what? I don't think anybody says his name enough, because I swear to God, his name was mentioned 150 times.
Chaz?
In the course. No, John.
Oh, John?
Everyone's like, John, hey, John, John, hey, John.
John. Yeah, John.
It's constant.
Teen.
But on the other hand, there's an actor who shows up playing the big bad, who's like the greatest scenery chewer of all time. So I was really happy.
Chews.
Oh man, he gulps down entire sets, and
Yeah.
I love him for it. So I don't think there's anything wrong with the movie. It just didn't work for me.
Yeah, like why is Shia LaBeouf there? It does
Right.
feel like they, I don't know, had a contract with Shia LaBeouf where he had to appear in something else, and so they were like,
It
here,
kid budget. They had
be
it kid
here.
budget.
Yeah.
But
And then another note that I had was my hell would also be really windy. I like the way that they portray hell as it's just constant like movement and turmoil, and like because my hell would be super windy. I tell you what.
I think if this movie had been, I think an actual horror director handling it, I don't think the problems with Keanu, I don't think the problems with Rachel Weisz, they both showed up to act in the same movie.
Rachel Weisz she does this with every movie she's in, but she pulls out all the stops. She's just she always gives 100%, and I love her for that.
Yeah, and she played two parts here, and she gave it everything that I think the director was willing to let her give it. And I would have loved to see like even a shot for shot remake with a different director. I think I would have actually dug the hell out of this movie because
Who's the director on the Francis Lawrence? Let's see what this guy's done.
It could be an amazing director, and there were some shots in this, like the cinematographer, the director of photography in this movie did some amazing shots. I cannot complain about the look or the feel of the atmosphere of this movie, and there were some really, really good things in there. And my original viewing of it 17 years ago, I complained like a giant bitter fan baby because Keanu Reeves wasn't John Constantine. But you know what? I'm okay with it now.
So this guy, so Francis Lawrence has a hell of a resume, a shit ton of music videos. People you wouldn't expect. The Circus music video by Britney Spears. Bad Romance by Lady Gaga, which is an S-tier music video, if I do say so myself. Run the World by Beyonce, another S-tier video. But also Water for Elephants, that romance movie based off a book starring Robert Pattinson. The Hunger Games, Catching Fire and Mockingjay. I Am Legend.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's actually an assignment I would love to throw at us is let's watch every version of I Am Legend, and then we can talk about the only actually faithful adaptation.
Yeah.
Which was Last Man on Earth with Vincent Price in the 1960s. Okay. But maybe that's, for another year. But so I enjoyed myself. I still wanted a scary movie, and
this is not a scary movie.
It's just not. It's not a scary movie, and that I think is where going into like Sandman, where Neil Gaiman said, I didn't want an adaptation that wasn't my comic. And I kind of think if Garth Ennis and the other folks that had done the Hellblazer comic had said the same thing, we would have had a truly terrifying Constantine movie.
So is Hellblazer scary?
Yeah.
Because I have it. I just haven't read it.
Yeah, it's comic book scary. So it's as scary as a comic book can be. It just depends on how engrossed you get with the whole thing. But there are some truly terrifying things that happen in it. And sometimes it's kind of tongue-in-cheek. But I know fans of the comic book had a hard time with it. But at the same time, in this age and era of things being adapted, it's not the worst adaptation you're ever going to see. I think he did a fine job. I mean, ultimately, he wasn't British, but he played Constantine. If
fine. Yeah,
if Constantine was an LA guy, cool.
Yeah, we got to talk about that scene where he is getting pulled to heaven, and Satan's right behind him, and he's giving him the finger on his way up. It's so good.
Yeah, there's a couple things that I kind of wince at and go, oh, did we really need to have a shotgun in the shape of a cross? But,
we did.
Well, but that's the thing. Sometimes we go for cheesy, and sometimes
I love cheesy, campy stuff like that. But
right.
But you are right. It just doesn't fit with the overall tone of the movie.
Right. And I think if you were to read the Hellblazer comics again, it's early Vertigo, so the art's really rough. But if you were to read some of it, I think you would see what I'm talking about. Is that and actually the first season of the Constantine series they tried to do on CBS hit the character precisely how
That's
the
what I
comics
hear.
portray them.
Everybody because he shows up in so much others. He shows up in that Legends of Tomorrow, and he shows up in
Yeah.
Lucifer. Like
Mhm.
people love him and say he does a great job, and I've not heard a negative comment about him.
Yeah, and so it is what it is, and I'm glad it's out there. And it's one of those movies that I know so many people who get genuine joy out of Constantine. I'm not going to take that away from them. I am never going to tell anybody, hey, you know what, that's not a good movie. No, you know what? I love that it's there. I love that it's there for people to geek out on and have a good time with.
Do you? Oh, I think it's on Paramount Plus. I could be wrong. I think it's on Paramount Plus. The TV show Evil.
No, I haven't.
I think you would like it. Our friend Ben Linus is in it, and he's of course a bad guy. But
That bastard.
but the guy who plays Luke Cage is there.
Oh, he's so good.
He's extremely good. I think you should. I mean, this is maybe
watch it.
another future spoopy, but
Yeah.
Evil. I think that the third season just wrapped up, and like now it's done. But
Cool.
if you like your religious, scary things, Evil is
do.
a really good show to watch.
Okay, I've got one for you.
Yeah.
30 coins on Netflix.
30. That's on my. I have that on my list of stuff to watch.
Do you like Mexican supernatural horror?
I've never really given it a try.
Let's just say their scary is like they look at our scary and go, ha ha, how cute.
There's another show called Los Spookies. I haven't seen it, but
It's fun. It's your typical Fred Armisen stuff, but it's a lot of fun. I have a good time with that. So, all right, let's get to the one that I it really literally 30 Days of Night. I'm going to call Studio Notes the motion picture.
I had never seen this movie.
What a great premise.
Vampires in a town. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Out of the box.
So, couple problems. First off, the premise is fantastic. There's a part of Alaska, Barrow, Alaska, where they literally get no sunlight for a month. So the vampires are like, oh, cool,
Heyday.
a month of snacking. There's some issues there because that doesn't just happen. It's kind of like here where you have daylight waning as it gets later in the season. So like there's scenes before the 30 Days of Night where they're out there putting out the stakes and doing all this other stuff. And it's like,
quite bright.
Yeah, you'd have maybe 3 minutes of daylight.
Yeah.
It's not like this, wait for 30 days and then we're going to have a whole day of daylight. It's going to be like the vampires can go hide for 5 minutes while the sun's up and then come after your ass again. But this movie...
I gotta tell you, so never seen this movie.
Me either.
I was so bored, and I was on my phone on TikTok the whole time.
Ew.
And the only part, there is one part I really liked, and that was everything Ben Foster did. He really surprised me.
Where was Ben Foster?
Ben Foster was like the first vampire that they keep in the jail cell.
Oh, okay.
I've seen him in other stuff. He's been around for a long time.
He was the one that decided to do a voice.
He was the one who decided to do a voice, but honestly, I respect it. I really liked every choice he made, and that's it. Could have used a heads up about the dogs being murdered.
Unnecessary, or I mean, an interesting plot point because the vampires, and that's kind of the thing is like the first 10 minutes you go, okay, they're setting this up.
I liked what they were setting up. You're getting to know these
destroyed
characters.
The satellite phones. They cut the town off completely from the outside world.
Yeah,
Great.
and like we're getting to know these characters. We're developing actual care and feelings for these characters because we're understanding they're all going through something. But then. The vampires, I hated them. I did not like them at all.
They didn't make any sense. There was
They didn't make any sense. Like, I like it when my vampires have an agenda.
There's also another issue, too, is that there's no consistency with them. The leader of the vampires looks like an old-timey preacher from the Old West.
And then there's other vampires who are totally just like all fangs.
They look like sharks.
And all fangs and gray skin.
Yeah,
And if they stop moving, they die.
and I kind of dug them, and they all speak this weird language that is not based on any real language at all. And there's some really good scares where they're like dragging people under trailer park homes and stuff. And it's like you were that close. And then there's things that I think so. The comic, the main character, the Josh Hartnett character, is actually an indigenous Alaskan. So you have an interesting point there. And instead, they kind of shuffled that off to another character whose story arc literally ends 5 minutes into the movie and then picks up 5 minutes before the end with no resolution. And they have this whole ex-wife love angle that actually doesn't need to be there. Like, those characters could have just been a husband and wife or even friends, but instead it's, well, they're estranged.
So I personally like that character touch. I think it added some depth to the story. It
added to it. I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where I think they could have done the same story even without that. And
yeah,
I don't know. I have to go back to the comic and check that out, because that also has been ages.
I Googled, because I wanted to see what the comic looked like, and I can see how the artwork from the comic translates into this movie. Okay. And cool, whatever. I like I don't like violent vampires. I like my vampires subtle. And these guys,
seductive,
and these guys were just always hissing and always just wet and covered in blood, and like their violence was so extreme. Oh man.
Well, and they screamed the whole damn movie, which makes it. And so on top of that, there's an ending that I think the ending was literally the studio saying the audiences didn't like this, reshoot it. Because there's this whole thing where he's like, oh, I'm going to go, sorry, spoilers for this 20-year-old movie, but there's this whole thing where he's just like, oh, my best friend became a vampire instantly. I'm going to go inject myself with some of his blood so that I have an hour to go fight the vampire boss and watch the sun come up with my wife and turn into dust and float away. So there's no consistency in the mythos there, where the one character gets bit and all of a sudden he's a vampire and everybody has to throw him into and then Josh Hartnett's character's like, oh, I can fight this off forever.
Yeah.
That bugs me.
I really first of all, before I get to my thing I was going to say, the guy who directed this, can't remember his name, he directed Twilight Eclipse, so he has done a vampire movie since. However, while I was watching the movie, the whole time I kept thinking, wow, I would rather be watching Midnight Mass. And because Midnight Mass kind of takes this same concept and does it good. Gotcha. I really need you to watch Midnight Mass. I mean, there is some animal cruelty in the show. There's 2 instances of it that I can think of, and I think that's it. But the show is so good, Lee. It's so good.
I will check it out. I will.
Mike Flanagan, he knows what he's doing.
Okay, I'll check it out for sure.
Yeah,
he gave me 7 out of 8 good episodes of a series of a show that I enjoyed, and then I despised the last episode.
Midnight Mass is for sure. It is kind of like monologue the show. So the guy from Newsroom, I can't remember his name, he gives soliloquies galore. But
yeah, I don't mind.
It's a spicy meatball. It's so good.
What I do mind is telegraphing every goddamn thing you're putting in your movie. And that's 30 Days of Night in a nutshell. Oh, I have asthma? Okay, cool. Here's my puffer. Here's my inhaler. Strangely enough, he needs it or he's going to die, but then he's the fastest guy in the town and can run all the way across Burrow,
But then
Alaska.
The one time that he does need it and he doesn't have it, he's still okay.
He's still okay, but damn it, he is the fastest guy in town. And as every asthmatic I've ever known can tell you,
maybe it's the cold air. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm thinking of my wife whenever it gets cold and she's gasping on her puffer. And then there's
your joints don't kill you.
Here's our giant shredding machine over at the recycling plant.
We must demonstrate how it works too.
Yeah, look, it shreds up model. I bet you it shreds up vampires real good. Yeah, it's boy, it's kind of a. I mean, if you like the movie, I'm happy for you, but it kind of just felt like Big Dumb Vampires, the motion picture.
Yeah, just I literally halfway through I wrote in my note, I was taking notes. I'm like, I don't like this movie. And then I went to TikTok and I stopped paying attention.
That's bad.
It's really bad because I try to give every movie a shot. I if you know me, I give nothing but positive reviews to pretty much everything.
You try, yeah.
This just...
You've muscled through some episodes of Next Generation that I don't remember fondly, and you've enjoyed them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, you know what they are. I know this is where the movie has split-second scenes where it tells you how many days have passed, and my wife, who tried to champion through this movie, also got bored and started looking at other things and never noticed those little indicators of the passage of time. So she's like, wow, this is a really long, stupid day.
There was one shot where and it was kind of cool the way that they did it. You see someone moving in the background. It's the end of a scene and you see someone moving in the background and you're like, "Oh, that's a spooky." But then it immediately cuts to the next scene and just it was an editing choice that I was like, "Ooh, that's extremely good." But okay,
probably
that moment
accidental.
that and then Ben Foster. Those are the only two.
Yeah. And yeah, it's one of those things where maybe editing, maybe somebody out there has done a 80-minute edit, because I think it was only an hour and a half long.
It was an hour and 53 minutes.
Okay, well, an hour and a half is probably what it should have been. It
didn't need to be that long.
And I think it's also a cautionary tale. Like, I read the history of the thing, and the guy who wrote the screenplay and the comic had originally pitched the screenplay to studios who said, no, we're going to pass on this. And then he put the comic out, and the comic generated enough success that Sam Raimi's company said, yeah, we're gonna produce this. And maybe they should have workshopped it a little longer, because it's just kind of wildly inconsistent. And you could have done better with, I think, what would have been a really good premise.
Yeah, because everyone that you've got there is great. Josh Hartnett, I think he's great in everything he does. But just disappointing.
Yeah, he's in that sexy Victorian monster TV show on Showtime.
Which one?
Oh, geez, I can't remember. He's like a Wild West cowboy. It turns into a werewolf, and
ooh, I did look him up. His IMDb. The guy's always working. He's always got something going on, which good for him.
And good for him. It's one of those things. I've got a handful of movies that I really wish somebody would just take the premise and run with it, do something amazing with it, because there's enough there. I remember spending the entire next day just analyzing this movie, and I was like, this movie was not good enough to get that much real estate for free. And really what it turned into is it was because there was enough premise there that could have been great. It could have been one of the all-time greats. And
there were certain beats that would happen in the movie that I could tell, like, I don't know how faithful it is to the comic, but I could tell, like, oh, I feel like this is a beat that would be a part of the comic. And I really like how they are progressing the story, but just execution-wise,
Yeah, it's kind of like somebody decided to do a 4th grade presentation of Macbeth.
Yeah.
And everybody showed up to work.
Yeah, but, they did it.
Yeah, they sure did. Now,
just watch Midnight Mass instead.
Okay, I'm gonna watch Midnight Mass, and I'll report back on that. Maybe we'll do a Spooky Time Club on that. But here we are, rounding into October, so it's definitely on us to bring the thunder, which is why I'm going to be out of town next week.
Awesome, great.
So we may miss next week's recording, or I don't know. I may do it from a haunted house somewhere.
Or maybe I'm gonna try to go see Don't Worry, Darling. Not a horror movie, but I
hear it's terrifying.
But I would be more than happy to do a Rebecca Spoils, where I just talk into the void about Don't Worry, Darling.
I've not heard things about it.
People are saying it's a movie.
It's a movie.
I did watch a horror movie last week called Speak No Evil, because it showed up on like a best of 2022 list, and There were some moments where I was like, ah! But otherwise, the premise,
But you weren't on your phone looking at TikTok, were you?
No, I wasn't.
Yep.
I was paying attention to this stupid movie.
There you go. Stupid 30 Days of Night. Anyway, that's Spooky Time Club for this week. We may be back next week. If not, we'll be back in 2 weeks with an incredible show full of all the things that go bump in the night. I've been Lee.
I'm Rebecca.
Yeah! Keep it spooky, people.
Writing.